Thanks everybody for joining us today. Again, my name is Dave Siles. I'm the Global Field CTO here for Rubrik, focused on primarily product security and some of our Polaris products we're going to cover in the second half today, again, focusing on how we provide cyber resiliency. But we'll start with a general overview of Rubrik. Again, feel free to ask questions in the Q&A, and we'll be sure to address those at a couple different transition points throughout the presentation, and we'll make sure we capture those at the end for any remaining questions. At Rubrik, we've seen a marked improvement in operating over the last 6 years across our thousands of customers. That the complexity in the data management industry has not really changed in the last 20 years. Most of the architecture was multi-tiered, complex architectures of disparate hardware and many different software components that often required an array of professional services to get up and running. In the 2000s, there was some innovation that came about as data domain was born and deduplicated storage was introduced, but this was all still built on a pretty archaic architecture. At Rubrik, we've taken this complex architecture and we collapsed this into a single scale-out fabric that scales infinitely to provide data protection both on-premise and the private cloud through a simple scale-out hyper-converged model that requires very little integration opportunities from the customer with no forklift upgrades into the future. Now with Rubrik, it's very easy to get started. You can rack and stack and get operating in less than an hour. Rubrik can then auto-discover your virtual environment, and once connectors are installed, we can protect your physical assets as well. We're automated through our intelligent SLA policy engine. You craft your backup replication and archival policies into a single SLA domain. And this SLA policy can then be easily deployed against upcoming applications and new assets for enabling single protection. We do this all through rapid ingestion of your data and assets and applications. We do this in parallel to give you high performance, and we also do this to eliminate the overhead of VMware done on virtual machines. Now, we don't back up just to back up. We back up to give you the ability to have flexible recovery, and we offer instant RPOs and RTOs using our instant recovery for virtual machines, SQL databases, Oracle databases. We also give you the ability to do file like Google search to be able to quickly recover single files and instantly restore those. In addition, with our latest release, we can give you a very tight RPO for your most important and critical virtual machines with a single ability to turn on continuous data protection as part of our SLA domains. We'll see that live in the demo. Everything that we do at Rubrik is secure. We provide end-to-end encryption, and that end-to-end encryption is both not only data at rest, but also data in flight. All data is acquired through TLS protocol and encrypted with AES encryption at rest, whether that's from the source to the node, or node to the cloud, or cloud for long-term archive storage. And when it comes to cloud, we give the customer the ability to send data to the cloud to on-premise, to the cloud for long-term retention. This is called Cloud Out. And then we have the ability to take that archive copy that's been pushed to a cloud and automate that through a process conversion called Cloud On to convert a virtual machine into a native cloud instance to be able to leverage for DR use and recovery. Now, our customers use Rubrik to fast track their journey to the cloud and to facilitate that cloud journey at their own pace. Again, we start out with Cloud Out. In Cloud Out, we typically see customers use Rubrik to use the cloud as first their long-term retention location. They send the data and store it cost efficiently in a cloud with the ability to still search and maintain that data on-premise. Once we get the Cloud On, the data, once it's in the cloud, customers can leverage us to instantiate a copy of their automated converted virtual machine into a native AMI or VHD and allow you to power those on in the Azure or AWS cloud of choice. Many of these use cases where customers use Cloud On today with us are things such as test dev, DR automation. You can also leverage this technology to take your on-premise workloads and convert those into cloud native application. And once you're steady running in the cloud, we do offer cloud native protection through our SaaS-based approach. Native cloud protection is available for AWS and Azure today. For hybrid cloud environments, Rubrik allows you to abstract away the complexity of managing your data protection through a single setup ease of use, single pane of glass that does support multi-cloud and your on-premise clusters. We give you the ability to use a solution so that your data is always owned and under your control. And specifically, we're architecting the solution so that no matter where the data lives in a customer's environment, we allow you to take advantage of it and exploit that for business use. Now here at Rubrik, data protection really does more. We take all the data under management on our CDM platform and bring this into our Polaris SaaS cloud, really allowing you to transform your backup data into a business asset. When you've got a hybrid environment, you use Rubrik on-premise to manage that environment, and maybe that's running on Rubrik appliances or third-party hardware. But when Polaris is involved, you have a single record of truth, and by harnessing this metadata across many different silos, your application and data that's both on-premise, and maybe at your edge and in your cloud, we give you the ability to universally tap into this metadata and deliver additional value by publishing a set of business apps on top of it. The first app that we published was Polaris GPS. This provides a single pane of glass in which you can manage your virtualized data center, your edge, and your cloud deployment. The second product is Polaris Radar, which we're going to cover in the second half of today's demo. This automates the ransomware detection, one-click recovery, and builds on top of the platform's native immutability to give you protection against ransomware. But it also gives you a last line of defense to protect against when a ransomware attack does happen, to give you accelerated recovery. We have customers that use Radar all the time to avoid the downtime associated with these types of events. The third app is Office 365 protection. This allows you to orchestrate the protection in your Office 365 environments with a resource that scales in line in real time. No data ever leaves the customer's environment versus other vendors where you have to store the data within inside your own data center. We have customers that do this to allow a quick restore to their mailboxes and in the need of recovering the entire environment through the subscription. The last application that's publicly available now is the Cloud App Protection. Again, this easily allows us to set up protection for large-scale AWS and Azure environments. Enterprises that have hundreds of accounts or subscriptions. Each AWS account or Azure subscription becomes a data silo. We collapse all these data silos into a single unified management pane of glass and give you leverage our SLA policy engine to automate the protection there. Lastly, we have a product that's coming soon, and that's our Polaris Sonar product. And Sonar is automated data classification to allow you to comply with data privacy regulations. We use this to help you understand and detect where the sensitive data, such as like credit card numbers and social security numbers, are inside your backup data. There's zero infrastructure required to run Sonar to get started. We do have customers in our early access program that have seen operational savings by eliminating the manual scripting and impact of doing manual data classification by leveraging Sonar's automated approach. Everything that we do at Rubrik is based on an API-first platform. Everything that you'll see today in the demo that I'm doing in the UI can be programmatically done at the API level as well. We have customers that take and automate this through integrations with things like ServiceNow and Ansible and Chef. We have a fully featured, well-documented REST API, and we have an open source development library at build.rubrik.com where you can take your code platform of choice and get started with some of our accelerated SDKs. We have customers that have done this and substantially have saved man hours and operational costs by automating with Rubrik. Now I'm going to pivot over here and walk you through a live demo of the Rubrik CDM platform in action. And again, if you have questions, please feel free to ask those in the chat, and we'll catch those here on the back side of this demo. Now on the screen here, I'm logged into one of the nodes in the Rubrik cluster, and a node in a Rubrik cluster is a server inside of our brick, and a brick has 4 nodes in it. This cluster here, Americas 2, is running on 2 different bricks, and I've got 8 nodes in it. You quickly get a glance on the dashboard of all the performance activity that's happening on the system. You get the chance to see how many assets we have under protection and what consumption space that we have. At Rubrik, we have the ability to protect many different types of assets. Here I'm showing virtual machines, but you can quickly see that we can protect different types of environments: Hyper-V virtual machines, Nutanix AHV, physical and Windows systems, NAS file shares, SQL, Oracle, different types of databases, and then even some cloud native workloads. Now, all this protection starts with our SLA domains. Again, this allows you to take and map your business RPOs and your RTOs, your recovery point objectives and your recovery time objectives into a policy that meets your business requirements and apply those against these assets that we're protecting. Now, creating an SLA policy is very simple and straightforward here at Rubrik, and we're going to walk through and build one here right now. So first, you give it a name of what you want to call your SLA, and then you have some options that you have to complete to fill out that service level agreement. Now, remember that we do give you, if you're going to apply this against virtual machines, the ability to enable near zero RPOs, and that would be the simple check of a box to turn on continuous data protection and choosing how often you want to keep that journal for. Now, beyond that, we would define our retention cycle. So maybe we want to keep every hour for 3 days. We want to keep every day for 31 days. And we want to keep every month for 12 months. And then I want to keep every year for 3 years. So taking my business policy, I've mapped this out. So I have a SLA policy that will take a backup every hour and then maintain this data for up to 3 years. We do give the ability to specify when you want to take those snapshots through windowing. Otherwise, Rubrik will take and figure out the best proper time to run this backup to make sure that we're meeting your business SLAs. Now, on the second side of the SLA policy engine, we define how we want to retain this data for that long-term retention. By default, right now, I'm keeping all this data on the Rubrik appliance for 3 years. Now, most customers don't need to keep it on the primary system for 3 years. They want to take advantage of cloud with us and take advantage of the cost economics that come along with that. So I can choose to turn on archival to a cloud of choice, and I can say I want to take this and replicate it to Amazon S3, and then give you the ability to kind of specify on the slider here what that retention looks like on Brick versus what's going to be sent to the cloud. So for point of service, I want to keep the first 31 days on the Rubrik appliance, and the remaining balance of that 3 years will be archived to AWS. Now, if I want to take advantage of our Cloud On capability, and I want to get every copy of that data immediately to the cloud, I can also choose to turn on enabling instant archive, and not only will it still keep 31 days of service record on the Brick, it'll automatically immediately start archiving to the cloud. Without instant archive, on the 32nd day, it will start replicating that data archive up to the cloud, and we keep that remaining data set for the 2 years. We also give you the ability to do replication from data center to data center. So if you have a Rubrik cluster in another data center, you can choose to do point-to-point replication by choosing the replication partner and then specifying how many days of retention you want to keep under replication. And so maybe I want to keep the next 14 days underneath replication. So I can choose that as well. So not only have I built my business SLA policy, I said I choose to archive to the cloud with the balance of that being there for 3 years, and I'm going to do, for business continuity reasons, replication to a partner Rubrik appliance, and that will be done for 14 days. Now, once those SLA policies are created, it gets added to the catalog, and I want to apply those catalog SLA to assets I want to protect. So we'll look at it from a virtual machine perspective. So here I've got a virtual machine that's being backed up, managed by Rubrik. It was auto-discovered and brought into protection. Again, we have that auto-discovery capability, so it was discovered underneath this virtual center. It's running on this ESX host. We're applying an SLA of 4 hours. So every 4 hours, we're backing this up. We're retaining it for 30 days locally, and then we're archiving it out to AWS. Here on the calendar view, you can quickly see at a glance, every place I have a green dot, I have at least a successful backup. And I can look at that over the time that's being protected by Rubrik. I have the ability to go in and then leverage any one of these points in time to drive some of our flexible recoveries. The first thing that most people do is a file level recovery. So maybe I deleted the host file and I want to go back and recover that. I can see quickly that the host file is available for recovery, and I've got 55 versions available in the catalog. Now I can choose the latest one, which will be presented to me, and if I need to go back in point in time, I can choose that previous session and then choose how I want to recover. I can download in place, or I can restore by leveraging either the Rubrik backup service or pushing that through guest VMware tools. Now, because we actually have the ability to archive to the cloud as well, some of these copies of the data have been replicated off-site. And when those copies that have been replicated to the cloud, I receive this new icon showing that there's a cloud archival involved. Now, this data is no longer local to Rubrik, but if I still wanted to drive that same file level recovery, I can. And I can go out and choose to still download or restore. And because Rubrik has the metadata under management, we know how to recover just that single file, so we're saving you on egress charges. But instead of having to evacuate and bring that entire backup of that virtual machine, we'll go in and fetch just that one file and drive its directed recovery. Beyond file level recovery, we give you the ability to do other flexible types of recovery. Instant recovery is one of the features that our customers use the most with Rubrik, and giving you the ability to take and run off the Rubrik platform an instantiated copy of the virtual machine for business continuity reasons, DR, QA testing, or just to recover back from an event. Now I can choose to mount this virtual machine back to my ESX environment for a flexible recovery. So I'm going to choose to recover this to Americas 2 ESX1. Get the ability in the advanced settings to kind of define how I want to recover that. Do I want to keep the MAC addresses? Do I want to power on that virtual machine? And I want to power this on and show you that it's coming live. And so when I choose mount here, what's going to happen is I'm going to instantiate an NFS service on the Rubrik appliance. It's going to go out and talk through automation to my VMware environment and automatically present that data store. It's going to force that data store then to be rescanned by VMware. It's going to register this virtual machine, and it'll kind of come up with recover timestamps. So if I come over to my VMware environment here and scroll down to that virtual machine, there's the original one that's running here that's already still powered on. And again, if I look at the data store that it's running on, I will see that it's running on the VMware's primary data store. But I've got that instantiated copy that it's been presented. It's running off the Rubrik NFS service. It's running out of my backup. So Rubrik is servicing this. We have 30,000 IOPS per node of performance in a brick, and that allows us to provide flexible recovery at scale for customers who need to do this type of recovery. And then if you go here and look, you'll see this virtual machine is about to power on and will come up to be operational. And so in a matter of just a few minutes here, we've taken a virtual machine that's running out of our immutable backup, represented that via NFS back to VMware, scan and attach that, and now that system is kind of coming online, and I have it ready for flexible use and recovery. It's as simple as that. Now that flexible recovery that I just did for virtual machines, we can also do for other types of systems. Beyond virtual machines and physical systems, Rubrik is really well known for protecting databases, SQL, Oracle databases. Now, when it comes to a database backup, we have the ability to do multiple different types of protection with that. And one of those is being able to do point-in-time log shipping. So I can bring up my SQL server here, and you'll see I have multiple different databases that are under protection here. Now, this database here is actually being protected, but it's also being protected by log shipping. So when I look at EventureWorks, I can see that I'm getting a backup, but I'm also having the ability to have the logs being replicated in. And the benefit of that is I can do a recovery to any static snapshot point in time, but I can also use the ability to play back the log to go back to any exact specific point in time. So if I want to recover back to 5:35 last night, I can take and then mount this database, present it back to my SQL server. And this time, instead of presenting an NFS data store, I'm going to present a secure SMB share, mount that to my SQL server, and in SQL here, if I look at my databases, there's the production database that's there. And if I rescan this with a refresh, you'll see here momentarily we'll get a new database presented, the EventureWorks recovery database. And this is running again off the Rubrik platform. It's still loading. But once this is done restoring here, we'll have this available. And if I show you the backend storage, this one obviously is running off of the primary storage of the system, and the secondary copy will be running off of the Rubrik platform. Those are being served off the C drive underneath the SQL deployment. And now the recovery database has been brought online, and it's being served off of the Rubrik appliance. Now, the performance of this is, even though it's running off the Rubrik appliance, it's still quite performant. I can go in and do all the same kind of table operations that I would do on the production system. I can still export and run tables and queries, and it obviously returns those results. So, just another flexible type of recovery that you have with Rubrik. Being able to do this type of point-in-time recovery is also available for any Oracle database under protection under Rubrik. So once the mounts are done, I have the ability to go in and clean these up. So when I'm done with servicing that SQL database on the Rubrik appliance, I can take and choose to unmount that. So once I'm done with that recovery, and then the same with the virtual machine. On the virtual machine side, I can choose to power off that virtual machine and then remove that mount. And then we'll be back to same steady state it was before we mounted the virtual machine. There we go. Everything has been cleaned back up.